Kirby, a couple days of practice so far. Just how has practice been this week?
It's been good. Good tempo. Thought yesterday was nice and cool. Had a great practice. Today was not the best Tuesday, but not the worst. It was a little warmer, but had good energy, and guys practiced hard.
Coach, when you had a chance to go back and watch it, how did you feel like Damon Everett played? And just, I guess, speak about the challenge that Leggett and Rattler present.
Man, Damon played okay. He could play with a little more confidence. He's a good football player. He's still getting comfortable in the big games and the big moments. He understands the defense. He tackles well. He plays physical. It's hard to block, which in this league it's a big man league. So you got to have some weight under you, and you got to be able to hold the point. As far as Leggett and Rattler, I've talked about them enough. They're really good players.
Kirby, I was reading something about the halftime speech or lack thereof, and I don't know, somebody said you were going to get on them, but then sports psychology. What was the conversation, and as far as how you addressed the team at halftime against Carolina?
Where or did you hear that? Like, what are you talking about? I was going to get on them. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what he's referencing. I guess I would need better details as to I was going to get on them. Not that I know of. I mean, we have a guy that works with the team, and he does a great job, Drew. He gave our team a message on Friday before the game, and he spent the game with us. But I don't really know. I don't know what you're referencing as far as that goes. I mean, I have varying messages at halftime. I mean, it just depends on how we're playing, what's going on. If we're playing with emotion, not playing with emotion. I mean, there's a lot of decisions to go into how you approach it. At that time, I don't know what good getting on them was going to do.
Yeah, Kirby, just wondering if you had reached out to Nick Chubb at all, given the unfortunate incident last night, and then how important was he to this program and still is to this program, given all that he does and all that he represents?
Yeah, he's an incredible human being, first and foremost. What kid still goes back to their high school weight room, strength coach, program, track, and works out like he does, and just very rare in the sports world to find someone as humble and just great person that he is. And I reached out to him. I know he's probably been flooded with all kinds of, people reaching out to him, so no expectation of anything in return. Just a lot of respect for him and what he did for this program in terms of toughness, buy-in, giving back. I mean, he decided to come back when he did. I thought it was in his best interest to come back, but he certainly did UGA a favor returning too, and what an outstanding year he had when he did. And I talked to Ron about it today, and I think he'll make a full recovery and bounce back. That's just who he is. So he'll be ready to get after it.
Kirby, 3 weeks of the, data. You probably already looked at it with the clock rules and everything, but it seems like a lot of the complaining's been from offensive-minded coaches. As a more defensive coach, but also a guy who was on the committee, where do you stand on where things are at this point?
I don't really know. I actually sent a text to the analytics people we have a subscription to, and he sent me a text back immediately and said, I asked week 1, and he said, well, it's more than they thought. He said, but you can't judge it on 1 week. And after week 3, last weekend's numbers were in, he texted right back and said, it's right where we thought. He said 21, 22, I want to say he said 175 snaps a game maybe, and they're just 170. So it's 5 snaps a game after 3 weeks. And, I mean, you can quote me on it because I said it, but I don't know if it's fact. I'm going off what somebody told me. So they told me 175 to 170, so it's actually 5 plays difference. Is that the same thing you're hearing? 3 plays per team? That makes sense because they're saying 5.5, so 3 per team is 6, and what I was told is 5.5. So that's not substantial, but I don't know why I even feel like it's more than that, because I feel like, maybe they should study it by possession, and I have not done the math on possessions, not plays, because it seems less. It seems faster, you know what I mean? But I don't know what impact it's had because if you do it by number of plays, that's minimal. I mean, that's just minimal. 3 plays per game. 3 plays per game per team. I don't think that's a major deal. Yeah, possessions matter. possessions, but I can't sit here and tell you the possessions because I didn't ask that number. If possessions are down, if 3 plays are down, then it shouldn't be possessions down.
How have Kendall and Roderick looked so far this week?
Kendall's been in rehab. He's been rehabbing and working, and Roderick hadn't been able to practice with us. So they haven't looked good in terms of practice because they haven't been out there. I'm hoping that we can get them back. It looks very doubtful that Roderick's going to be able to play this week. I'm still holding out hope that Kendall might be able to, but I can't say that because he has not practiced yet.
Kirby, we see some programs that seem to be affected by crowd noise more than others, and Georgia's not one of those programs. I guess I would ask, is that something that you work on every day? That seems to be one of the more drilled. I mean, everything's pretty drilled, obviously, but can you talk about your commitment to that?
Well, we haven't. I mean, I don't know what makes you think we're not affected by crowd noise. What's the measure of that?
I saw Tennessee have, I think, 5 people jump, 2 timeouts against Florida, and last year I saw them have about 6. I haven't noticed that with you guys in the game.
Yeah, it's tough, man. I think that the NFL teams don't experience it until the playoffs. I think the SEC teams and the SEC environment, and, I'm sure there's other conferences. I'm not saying we're the only ones with crowd noise. I know Florida went to Utah, and that was a game I got to see where it was impacted. It's a major deal. I mean, I study it hard because I go through and watch third and fourth down reel of the league, every league game, and it's amazing to me the team that's on the road, the number of times it impacts third and fourth down is incredible. And you try like hell to avoid those, but we haven't played in that environment. Like we haven't. I can't remember the last year. I think Missouri, we had a false start to open the game. And maybe 2 others in the game. So I can't sit here and tell you it has not affected us. It affects us when you go into a tough environment. Well, you just turn on crowd noise and try to simulate it, but you prepare it by, maybe doing a little less and taking a few plays out that are hard communication plays, checks, motions, adjust. I mean, you got to be smart. I call them, a relief play. You got to line up and go play and see if you can block them without doing too much, and the more you try to do, I don't think some coaches acknowledge that it's 6 penalty advantage to play at home in the SEC, possibly. I mean, it's come out that way for us because teams have come here and gotten probably 5-6 more penalties on average, and you got to try to find a way to avoid that when you go on the road.
Are you guys sticking with Peyton on field goals, or are you making a switch?
Yeah, we're having competition. I mean, like I said all along, it was going to be open regardless. We're competing every week. The competition every week has been pretty consistent. They've been pretty even. But with the outcome of the games, you have to continue to open it up. We did a bunch of exercises to try to put some pressure on those guys today, and we'll do the same thing throughout the week and then make a decision. That's minute to minute, hour by hour.
Coach, with the running back injuries, I'm just wondering about Dylan Bell. That's number one. How much does he get to work on things like pass pro, which obviously is very important? And with these injuries, is it a case where you may be forced to play him more at running back than you previously have?
Well, he's got a package, and the package each week they've tried to expand it and go piece by piece because we think he's a very valuable receiver, and that's what he remains, is a receiver for us. And his package first week was a few plays. His package next week was a few plays, and we've added plays each and every week. And, yeah, he does pass pro. He does, he learns our protections, and he's really a very physical player. Like, he plays on special teams, strikes people. He's 210 pounds, so he's bigger than Cash and some of our other backs.
Coach, I know you guys are obviously focused on the season, but with the way the portal windows are now set, there's going to be like hundreds of kids that enter the portal at one time. Is there any way to be proactive in your scouting? Or are you guys going through and maybe evaluating other rosters? Or is it all a reactive scouting measure where they enter, you evaluate whether or not they'll be a fit and go on from there?
Yeah, everybody's got a new staff that goes and evaluates every player. I mean, I've been told there's teams out there on the sidelines of our games scouting our players in warm-ups because that's their job for their team, is to know something about that kid if he goes in. And we're not that advanced. I'm not really that interested in it. I mean, obviously there's never a kid that goes in the portal we would not consider unless we didn't like him coming out or had, some reason not to recruit him coming out. But I'm not going to go in advance and do that because you might scout 1,000 kids, and 10 of those 1,000, end up going in, and I could take that 10 minutes and go watch them when they go in. And to be honest with you, from what I've seen, when they go in, they all know where they're going. It's not been one kid that when he told me he was leaving, he didn't already have a plan of where he was going.
Coach, it seems like Jalen Walker bulked up a lot since last season. I was wondering if that was his decision or if that was a coaching staff suggestion to bulk him up and get him up in weight.
I don't think he's bulked up. He's 240, 242. I think he was 236, 237 last year. So maybe he looks that way, or maybe I'm just wrong. But I don't want him bulked up. I want him fast, and he's been an excellent edge rusher for us. He's developing as an inside backer, and I like him the way he is.
Speaking about Jalen and Sorey, too, how important is it to have guys who can play inside and also rush off the edge when you need them? And do you feel that's maybe a more important skill set to have with how offenses are in college football nowadays?
Not really. I think that if you have outside backers that can rush, that it's a luxury to have an inside backer that can rush. And Sorey has developed that skill set because when he came in, he was a natural, really speed guy, edge guy. I think the element in pro football and college football has become how much speed can you get on the field. And with all the passing, Jalen and Sorey give us an abundance of speed. They're two of our fastest players, and they're able to chase things down, run things down. They were both in the play on the screen, and hated it for both of them. They both had an opportunity to make the play, and neither did, but that's why they're out there, for those kind of plays.
Wondering, Coach Malachi's obviously from around here, from Jefferson, and he's played a ton for you in these first 2 years. When did he first come on your radar? Did you know about him really early? And when you got a guy like that everybody in the country's coming after, he's in your backyard, does that even turn up the pressure even more that you got to keep this guy around?
I don't think you can get any more pressure on a good player because, it's whatever the full amount of pressure is, it's the full amount. It doesn't get any greater than infinity. So he's a really good player, and there was always that. I think his home life, his mother, father, the community of Jefferson, he was very grounded. I don't want to say a homebody. He just never really was interested in going all over the place. It reminded me of Charlie Warner. He was like, I really just don't want to go to all those places. I want to go to Georgia. This is what I want to do. And he knew that. And he came on campus as a ninth grader. I remember, I can't even remember who the DB coach was here then. It was so long ago. It might have been, I don't know who it was, but he came over and said his dad's here. He's a ninth grader. He's just coming off a broken leg from basketball. And he ran really fast for us, and he had a really big frame. And I thought, man, this kid's going to be a good player. And he was playing quarterback. So it was a tough evaluation. It was a projection. It's a safety. But once we got to know the kid, he came over here 1,000 times over 3 years. Just loved the character and the integrity of his family and what they stand for, and really him. He's a great kid.
Yeah, just that offensive line competition with Amarius being out. How is Blasky looking right now? And then obviously Truss and Fairchild as well factoring into that.
Yeah, Truss has worked guard and tackle just like he always has. More tackle this week. Blasky has practiced, and he is a tough dude. But he's hurting. He's trying his best out there, and O-line is it's a position that you might get away with a little bit of an MCL because you're not out there on space running and cutting. But he's not 100% healthy. So he's out there working. Monroe's working at tackle. Bo's been developing, playing some at tackle. Dylan can go out and play tackle. Micah can go out and play tackle. Chad Lindbergh plays tackle. So we got musical chairs. We're just trying to get it where if the next guy goes down, we can get the best guy in.
Coach, I know you mentioned Eddie Gordon a little bit yesterday. I know when he was here, he was a very popular guy with your offensive lineman. Why was that? Why was he such a Pied Piper, so to speak, to a lot of those guys?
Well, he's a great recruiter. He's a great coach. He's a hard worker. I have a lot of respect for Eddie. I don't think, of the people we've had in the organization that have left, somebody told me it's like 24 guys that have come here, worked in some capacity, and moved on to another maybe on-the-field role or a role higher than they were here. And he was a guy that was loyal. He worked hard. He recruited a lot of good players here. He was right alongside of Sam, and he was right alongside of Matt Luke. He was right alongside of Searles, and He has a personality about him. He never backed down from coaching players hard, and I respect that in a coach because he didn't try to be their friend. He coached them hard and recruited them hard, and got a lot of respect for him. And you see it in the way his O-line plays, man. They're going to be wound up for this one because I know Eddie wants to represent and his kids to play well.
How did Lindbergh kind of grade out, or not specifically, but when you guys looked at tape, playing, I guess, more snaps than maybe expected?
Playing more snaps. Where did he play? No, that was Fairchild. No, Dylan played well. I mean, I think the amount of time he played leading up to that game had helped him. He had played meaningful minutes. He's practiced with the ones. He's gone against our defensive line all camp, so I think he came in pretty confident. And he had a few arrows, but hell, they all did. I mean, he played well, and he's, like I said, I think we think of him, Jared, Micah, those guys as starters.
Kirby, I know you said with Javon he was a game-time decision this past week. How has he looked so far in practice?
Yeah, he hasn't been able to do much. He warmed up, didn't feel great in warm-ups, shut him down, and hasn't done much this week in terms of being able to practice. I asked him today, and he's underwater running, got a boot on, but he has not been able to practice.
Coach, I know you guys don't use the portal to the extent that others do in college football, but have you seen any major impact on high school recruiting? Got teams taking dozens of guys in the portal. They can't take high school kids. Has your pool of prospects gotten any larger?
You lost me on the last statement. How would our pool get larger? Because, well, yeah, but I mean, we're talking about we're recruiting the top 10%. I don't think that part's changed. I think it's definitely changed at a different level. I don't think at the SEC level the pool of the kids that we'd be signing probably wouldn't be signing at the SEC. They'd be signing somewhere else. So I mean, if anything, it may help our walk-on or preferred walk-on program because those kids that would have gotten scholarships other places, they're all taking kids out of the portal. And I think that's the right of a coach. And you can look and point to some teams that have done an incredible job and have caught a program up really fast versus some that you catch a year where you don't get enough out of the portal and you got nothing developing and you end up in a bad situation. I don't know because I'm not in the portal industry as much. I mean, we're going to always look and try to take a great player, but I'm not going to live and die by it. I want to develop players and bring them in from freshman all the way up.
You had Matt Godwin as your director of player personnel for a long time, and then you transitioned to Will Myers. I just wanted to know how you found out about him and how do you think he's done so far this season in terms of evaluating and finding prospects?
Well, he does a lot more than that. I mean, we don't put evaluation on that position like some people do. Our coaches, my position coaches are always going to be evaluators. I don't believe in a system where once somebody comes in and tells you who fits your program. Matt didn't do that. He was a very valuable asset in terms of opinions, of looking over the top. So you have someone looking at all these players, someone looking at all these players. Who's comparing this row to this row? Who's comparing the receivers to the offensive linemen? That's a hard comparison. Which one's a greater need? So that's what they help with more than anything. And I don't really know how we found out about Will Myers. I mean, he worked with Muschamp at South Carolina, so there was a little bit there. We had a couple other links. I think he had been with, he'd been over at ULL, and so a lot of the same kind of family tree, coaching tree, and thought it was good to be around him in the interview, and he did a good job. He was very detailed, very organized, and that's what we needed in that position.
Coach, what's the story on the coach's jacket? It seems pretty worn and tattered.
Everybody didn't like it. I don't know. For me, it's the first one I pick up every time I go in there, and they said something about they don't make any more like this with the band at the bottom. So I don't like the kind that hangs loose. And there's 64 coaches' jackets in my locker that have hang loose, and there's only one with a band at the bottom. So I wear the one that has a band in the bottom.